What?
We videotape this for the future musicians of the world to hear. What can you leave them with?
Well, for me, I'd like for everybody to understand that there's only one way to make things work in the music field. And it's been said a million times. Practice, practice, practice. But folks, stay focused. For me, that's where I got it first. I have been focused all my life because that's how I was taught.
The Sessions has had the opportunity to hold this in many different cities and in different countries. And in each area, we try to bring in one person as a legend to go back to one of the PowerPoint presentations that we did about being more aware of the history of where our music came from and where different instruments came from and the players that really move the music business forward. I have the chance of having you, Bernard, here. It's an incredible honor for all of us, the Sessions, and of course myself personally. I've known you for a long time, but you never have ceased to amaze me in your positive attitude, in your direction to stay focused on playing music and being involved with music. It's amazing how you are able to just keep the force of Bernard Purdie going forward. How do you do it?
My good looks. It's all about being pretty. No, I'm just, folks, I'm a very happy man. I really am. I'm extremely happy because all my life I've been playing music. I was also told I was going to be a teacher. Of course, I did not want that. I did not wish that on anybody. But I've been teaching for the last 50 years as well. So for me, the joys of what I do, how I get a chance to meet people around the world, is what it's about. You guys actually keep me motivated. There are many things in life that we like. I like playing music, but I also like meeting the people. So I've been using that even for my own merchandise and stuff that I did when I went into business. I now carry stuff with me everywhere I go. Doesn't matter what it is. I never look at how many pieces you sell or how many. It's all about you. It really is all about you, the public, that I get the chance and the opportunity to work with you, talk with you, to find out the things that you like, because I look at it this way. I've done it all. And this is payback time. And that's what I've been doing. And in order to keep doing that, it's got to come from you, the public. And that's how I feel.
Let's go back to the beginning. I mean, it's the accomplished body of work that you have is really amazing. Let's go back to the beginning. You had said that you started playing when you were young. Music was around you, but you started a professional at the age of 12.
Yes, that's when I first got paid. That was my first paycheck. But before that, I sat on the stoop of my teacher for 7 years. I had no money, and of course, you gotta pay for lessons. So my paying for lessons was to sit on the stoop and watch others and watch what he did, how he taught. Well, I am still doing that same thing. I can't help but give. I walk, I talk. I don't push the issue on anybody about what you want to do. I will say this, I don't care who you are or what you're about. But if you don't learn your craft, don't talk to me, Because that's all I'm going to preach to you. I'm going to say it time and time and time again. You'll never be good unless you practice. But you got to believe. You have to believe in yourself. Just to motivate yourself. You got to motivate. You got to. If you want to get over the hump, you work at it. You work at it. I still have to work at it each and every day. Because for drummers, there's a guy that we don't like, and he's called Arthur.
That's right.
Arthritis is a thing that happens to all of us as drummers, especially musicians, and guitar players too. But you gotta move. You gotta keep the blood flowing. You got to. Exercise. And your exercise is so simple. You can be standing in the subway, which I do quite often. So I intend to be playing for I figure another 30 years. I can do this.
We hope more than that.
No, I just want to play. I'm not talking about, I'm gonna be around for a long time. I got a few more years yet to go in. But I just enjoy what I do. So it becomes easy for me. But you got a question? I got the answer.
So was there did you learn from someone that learned from a teacher that was passed down through him to you? How did you?
Well, I couldn't answer that because he was my teacher. From the age of 3, I was playing drums because I knew how. I didn't bang on the pots and pans. I actually played. I made music because I found out what he'd been saying to me for all those years that I had the gift. And of course, I took it wrong, like everything else. I was figuring he was telling me to shut up. Because I've always said, why? Why does that work? And this doesn't. And, well, tell me, explain to me. And I can only say that after everybody has gone. Because I'd go ask him. And then, of course, I'd ask him the same thing. Why do you keep saying the same thing to those guys? How come it's taking them so long to learn something? And he says, everybody has their level. You have to talk to each one at their level. Now even that as a kid, now I'm 6 or 7 years old, and he's saying this to me and expecting me to know what he's talking about. Because he says, I have the gift. But the biggest part of the gift was me being able to listen to what he had to say. And the spirit. It was always the spirit. Folks, I'm going to say this. I got to say it. I'm a super happy man because finally, after the last 10 to 15 years, my book is actually coming out this year. So I'm very pleased, and I'm also going to do a couple of more commercials, and one of my new clients is called Tattletale. Now I want you guys to look that up because it's something that you can use. It's an alarm system. Yes, and it's wireless. And it works. That is the beauty. But you will see it. You're going to see things. You're going to see the commercial and all that kind of stuff in the next couple of months. But the beauty of it is it's coming from so many different directions. And the one thing that I'm very pleased is that I'm doing the educational thing even more. Because I know that I have to give back. Because it is part of what it is for me. And this is the love of what I do. Spider, I love you. One of the
Spider
finest-
Man, one of the greatest players, man, for sure. Detroit. Thanks so much for coming by.
Motown. That was Mr. Motown. But the beauty of everything is so many. And today's panel, I'll go anywhere in the world with you guys because y'all have done it as well as I. You have really done it well.
Thanks so much. Come on, in 12 years old to get paid, you're now a professional and you're starting to meet different musicians and you're playing and the influence of music, what kind of music did you start listening to? Was it jazz? Was that a part of where you started from, jazz music?
No, I started from dance music. Everything that we did, you could dance. My teacher loved New Orleans. And they said, New Orleans. Just for those of you that really know that inside thing, they said. He also, country. Not country and western, but just plain old country. It didn't matter where it came, except my finest musician that I ever heard in my life was Floyd Kramer, piano player. Nobody in the world played as good as him.
So was that the kind of country that you were getting involved with?
Oh, I was involved with that very, very early because, not only because of Floyd Kramer, but because of Ray Charles. Because of going back to other people, organ players. I played with every organ player there was from the 50s straight on through. You name them, any organ player that you might have known, I had the opportunity to play with. Coming from there, and coming from a small town in Elkton, Maryland, it was a whole nother world because I was the little kid that used to go set up the drums for all the different bands that came in every week. And they let me play with them.
Yeah.
That's how I got a chance to meet every band member out there.
So were the organ players, did you have in the band, was it organ, bass, and drums, or were the organ players playing bass and they had
We had both. Most of the time, it was the organ players without the bass, because they always wanted the guitar player.
Right.
But they also wanted the background singers, and they wanted the singer out front. That was important, because vocal is what sold the bands after the 50s. Not the 40s, but the 50s. Because in the 40s, it was instrumental. But when the 50s came, you had to have a singer. And from there, all the musicians, I'm gonna say it, I'm only gonna say it once, love your singers, just like you love your engineers. That's how I made it through all those years in the recording studio. The engineer and I became inseparable. The vocals I play for vocals, I will be on the tailbone of every vocalist out there. I don't care how you do yours, I'm going to be part of you. The best example, of course, Aretha Franklin. Folks, Aretha was mine. What I did for her, she did for me. There was no separation. There was no separation. We were one. That's how I learned. This is the gift that's been given to me, is that I can hear where the melodies, all melodies. The rhythm I can do like this. And of course, reading music only puts the icing on the cake. So for me, it was totally, totally different. But I didn't know, I still didn't know what he meant that I had to give. But I learned. It took quite a few years, but I learned.
Let's talk about Aretha. I mean, I've heard you play with it, and it's talk about the feeling. Every song has such a deep feeling, and the groove is in the pocket. If you're not tapping your foot at an Aretha concert where you're on drums, you're dead. Mm-hmm. It's as simple as that, really. Working with her, where'd you first meet her, and how'd that all come about?
Oh, that all came about because of King Curtis. I was working for King Curtis, not as the drummer first, but as his bookkeeper. Mm-hmm.
So you were already on the business side at an early age.
Yeah, I was fortunate. I went to school. They would not let me go for music. I had to go for business administration. That's how I got in. Music was secondary for me, but music has never been secondary. But you do what you have to do to get in.
Absolutely.
Just to get in. With Aretha, we were one. No matter what she sang, how she sang, all of her movements, I knew them frontwards and backwards. I learned all of her music and anything that she wanted to do, whatever she was thinking about, I was into her. And that's what you have to do. Liberty, 25 years, when you're that long with somebody, you are them.
You know, yeah.
You just know. You just know what you have to do and where you got to go. Nobody has to tell you, oh, well, you missed a couple of beats over here. One of the highlights of my life that changed the world for me, I was on the road with James Brown. There was a mistake that was made by another drummer and a percussionist. And he was dancing and doing his thing. Purdy got 25. The man just fined me $25 live on stage. But I didn't make the mistake. So when the night was finished, I went to Mr. Brown. I asked him, I said, Mr. Brown, I'm sorry. It wasn't me that made the mistake. Too late. No, sir. I didn't make the mistake, so I'm not going to pay for somebody else's mistake. And he just looked at me. He said, it's too late. Damage is done. I said, no, sir. No, sir. I cannot do that. So he says, it's my band. I said, you're right. It is your band. And that's how you feel about it? So yeah, you have my 2 weeks notice. I gave him my 2 weeks notice. And in 2 weeks, I left the band. Everybody in the band was on the bus. I got out in New York, took my drums, and I never looked back. And it was one of the biggest lessons of my life. Yes, it was. He forced me to have to get a job, do what you gotta do, but humble, oh yeah. Believe me, I learned humility. Took a long time, but I learned. And that's why I've survived in so many years. I don't have a problem. I can go any place, anywhere in the world and get a job.
Oh, yeah. And that's for sure, because I've traveled the globe, over 60 countries. There's not a country or city I've played in that your name doesn't come up. It's amazing how powerful that is. Part of it is because of how you branded yourself, like the Purdy Shuffle. When you play a shuffle, I mean, it's so different than anybody else. And that shuffle, I had many hours of talks about your shuffle with the great late Jeff Porcaro. who loved the way you played, just loved it, and just adored what you played, and applied, and took parts of that Purdy Shuffle when he performed the tune Rosanna. That's a part he clearly told everybody. I didn't invent that. I borrowed part of that from Bernard Purdy. That feel, where'd that come from? That feel and that concept of playing the shuffle the way it was, with ghost notes and accents in such unusual places. How'd you do it?
Well, for me it was easy. Running behind me was the train tracks. And when you hearing the train tracks day after day, night after night, you hear that sound, woo, woo, woo. And it gets faster and it slows up, and then when the train stops in Elton, you lose the sound. So, but then it starts up again. So I incorporated the sound of the train with the sound of the old-fashioned do-do-do-do-do-do-do, as we call the shuffle. Well, just kind of listen for 1 second as I'm talking to you. On top of everything else that you do, you got to remember the ghost notes they're rebounds. But when you do them all together, you have to be constant. It's not about speed. It's all about how many notes you play. And guess what? You're playing all the notes. Quarter notes, half notes, whole notes. 16ths, eighths, dotted, and triplets. And also 30 seconds. But all that is happening because you got your feet and your hi-hat, bass drum. Up, and around. Yeah. I started this when I was about 4, 5, because I wanted to keep time. Your accents are the easiest part, but yet they're the hardest, because it's always stronger than anything else you do. Upbeats. But the key to everything, folks, it's not a 1-bar phrase, it's a 2-bar phrase. It covers all of the notes except for 64ths. We don't do 64ths. Too fast. You gotta think about that too much. And for those of you who really want to get this all down, I brought some DVDs with me. Okay? So you can take me home with you. And it's broken down very, very nicely. And of course, you got to look good. Guitar players, the bass players, the piano, the horn players, you guys are gonna have to learn to count as well as we do, because we have to count for you. We know that. But don't leave it all on us. And for the end of what I wanted to say, no matter how good you are and what you do, always remember where one is. And you got it.
Yeah. Round of applause for the great legendary PURDIE on behalf of the Sessions. We thank you so much, man. We really thank you so much.